Good morning. Welcome back to our human resource management class. You can see these are all of my contacts and our amazing teaching team's contacts and all of the details related to our class. Please make sure you're following this HRM outline link closely because it is appropriate, especially for today's topic of career development. This whole idea of the group project is designed for your career development. So we have already gone through and we've talked about the introduction. We've talked about career planning, which was week 2, more focused on the corporate planning. Today, we're going to be focused on your career planning related to the company. We talked about recruiting. We talked about orienting and training employees. This week, week 6, we're talking about knowing your roadmap, and the links are here together with a bunch of other details. This was the idea, if we get up to it, for last week. We went through the orientation and employee training, which was chapter 8. This week, as you can see, we are talking about chapter 10 in the book, but a lot of it, as you can see here, this planning for the future, the roadmap that you guys are aware of, that I talk about a lot, I hope to see with you guys. Before we get into that as well, I also wanted to point out that your careers depend on you. You shouldn't be relying on a boss. You shouldn't be relying on a teacher. You shouldn't be relying on me. I can share a lot of information, but my information is generalized unless you tell me more about yourself. So why am I showing you this other screen with the guy studying and the green top? Because this is unrelated to any textbook, but I think it's very interesting, very valuable. It is growacorns.com. It's a website that helps you think about your development, helps you think about your financial development and your planning ahead. This link that I'm showing here is 20 smart ways to make money on the side. So our class, we're focused on what you can do if you join a big multinational company like Google or Samsung or Apple, how you can manage those people. A huge part of that is managing the company management's ideas, how to make the company more profit. And then you have the workers that their focus is how to have a better quality of life when they're working. And so maybe they want more vacations and less work, more money, which may, some people think, be opposite management. So how do you deal with these things? One of the big things you focus on with your career development is education. Learn, learn, learn. This website, as I said, is just for you. Take a look at it. Start learning how to take care of yourself. Again, this one is showing 20 smart ways to make money on the side. Some of these extra gigs or extra jobs can pay more than $100 an hour. And another one is just to show you that it's slightly tailored for me sometimes, this is 5 great extra jobs or side hustles for people in their 50s. Pick me, that's me. And then some of these can pay thousands of dollars per month. And there's lots of details and small videos to explain things in here. But I'd like to also start by showing you this link that our teaching team has put together for you guys. We encourage all of you guys to be aware of this. So I'm going to share this in the chats session for you guys. It looks, that link says ways to make passive income, HTTP, and then bit.ly/, it looks like biz ideas, but instead of a B, it's a 3. So 3's ideas will show you this. And what I wanted to quote first is this first little bit. So, Jalmon, you're going to be presenting something today, so I won't bother you too much. How about Guillaume Lacar? How are you this morning?
I'm tired, but I think I'm okay.
Good. can I hire you or appoint you or nominate you to do two things for me? Number one, before the end of our class, which is at 10:15 today, I want you to make sure the class understands who are three people that can help you guys make sure the class is for you, not me. So you need to make sure you nominate three people, either a class president or a class director or class leader, whatever. I will give you a special reference letter for that. I think it's valuable enough. If the class agrees, I can give extra bonus points for that. Is that clear, Guillaume Lecar? So I want you to make me stop talking and get the class to identify at least one person that's going to help communicate your class interests with me. Ideally, three people. The second task is I want you to make sure that I go through and we read these details here. So just an example of the importance. Kim, do I detect maybe you have a French accent? I doubt that you're from French Canada. I would guess maybe you're from French Europe, maybe France. Is that correct?
Yes, I come from
Okay.
Paris.
Do you think this sounds correct? Many people work 9 to 5 and 5 or sometimes 6 days a week globally, not just in Paris or France. And so most people work maybe 9 to 5 and 5 days a week, 50 weeks per year for 50 years. And then they hope to start living their life, living their dream, being retired. But then they personally can't afford international travel or retirement. So start learning about yourself. Start learning about your earning. Be your own boss. Life is a game. We'll go through and I want to make sure I read all of the important things here. Is that okay, Guillaume Lecar?
Yes, it's
You've
true.
got those two jobs. Make sure I be quiet, stop talking, and go through this because there's a lot of information here. There's 17 slides of files. I'm not going to go through everything, but I want you guys to just be aware of this and we can talk about it. Next, before I start talking about one of the groups that is well prepared and is aware of their surveying details, you remember that I talk about in class, any class, every class, students should be aware of the big picture and don't just do your work. Don't just follow a textbook. Don't just listen to one teacher, but do it together with intertwining it with your environment. Be aware of what your ideal employer is doing and maybe do your classwork for your ideal employer. Make your class paper for them. Write a class paper, but if you change the format a little bit, and our teaching team can definitely help you change the format so that you can format it so that it follows specific journal styles and formats. If you replicate a certain journal style, it's easier to get published in those journals. If you have a publication in your career or on your resume or on your CV, your future is much better than somebody that doesn't. So start thinking like that and develop your CV today, yesterday, all the time. And look at the bigger things, even on the other side of the planet. There may be huge companies giving away millions or billions of dollars that you can benefit from. So plan about that stuff. So today, I want you students to talk a lot about how you're going to plan to develop yourselves. And Pia has talked about it already, saying that her group is going to talk about how they're planning to do surveying. But even though Pia and Jungmoon, you've already done a bunch of work, you've already started your surveying ideas, maybe I'm going to chew that up and spit it out. We have week 6, week 7, week 8, and week 9 to talk about it so you can make lots of changes. Ultimately, I want you to do your surveying to help you develop as a specialist, get some survey results to support you as a specialist, but not for class. Forget the class. The class isn't very important. Make sure you survey something to help your long-term career in 20 years from now. A lot of young people nowadays, they don't plan for 5 years, let alone 10 years or 20 years. But you should. Trust me. Look how old I am. Life changes really fast. Oops. Didn't have the mic, the camera on me. Hopefully you can see me now. So with that said, today our learning objective is to define your career development and summarize your major objectives. Name 3 entities required to provide input for a successful career development program and describe their respective responsibilities. Describe the steps for a career development program. You can see all of this stuff. It's focused on planning your future, but we're also talking about a glass ceiling. How about, so Linda, since you are French and English maybe kind of new to you, can you guess what does this glass ceiling mean for anybody in the world?
I don't really know what is it, glass ceiling, sorry.
Okay, good. Many people will work really, really hard and study really, really hard. Why? Because their mom said to, or their teacher said to, or their boss said to. They said, if you work hard and you're obedient, then you will do well in your job and you'll have a great life. Well, who created that theory? Who created that myth? There are many examples of people working incredibly hard that are incredibly smart, smarter than their bosses, and yet they can't really develop. So they are growing, but they grow to a certain level and then they hit something that's stopping them from continuous growth, that they're hitting a ceiling, like inside a house, and they can't see what it is, but they just see that they've been doing their job for a long time and they're doing really, really well, but they can't keep getting promotions or pay raises or what they want. That's what we talk about as a glass ceiling. What about, go ahead, I want to pick on Pia. Can you explain what you are aware of with the glass ceilings? Who are often talking about glass ceilings? Pia?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the concept of glass ceilings, but who's talking about it? Maybe people in lower management positions who don't have, or who don't, I mean, they probably try hard to get bigger promotions, but I don't know, maybe there's something in the way, like their bosses, and they can't really get out of it.
Good, thank you. That's true, absolutely true. What about for the whole class? What was the world talking about with BLM? Black Lives Matter, or minorities matter, or Asians matter. That whole concept, what is it talking about? It's talking about a few people are set in a good, valuable position of control, and they don't realize they have that privilege of being in control, and all of the other minorities don't. And a lot of minorities, whether it's true or not, a lot of minorities are saying that they feel the world is cheating them. They feel the world is not fair. And in class, I need to point out that the world is not fair. The world is a game. You need to understand the rules of the game. And so that's what we're talking about today. And the whole idea of you guys talking about surveying, I hope you show me you know part of the rules of the game for life. Forget this idea of just class. It's a small minority part of what's important in class. And so how could your surveying impact your life so that your goals and dreams come faster, come sooner, come easier than just hiking up these many, many stairs after you spend a long time working really, really hard. Glass ceilings are usually identified by minorities. Women. I've been in Asia for going back and forth, North America and Asia for over 25 years. A lot of women easily identify that they can't get the best jobs, or they can't keep the best jobs just because they're a woman. And whether some people think it's true or not, I've witnessed it. I have seen a lot of women laid off just because there is a hiccup or challenges with companies. So that glass ceiling, it's not just preventing your growth, sometimes it's really hurting you financially. For example, when I came here in 1995, everything was great. Korea was growing super fast, one of the fastest growing countries in the world, next to Nigeria. And then the world was growing so fast, especially in East Asia, Thailand and Korea growing super fast. The governments realize that they can grow faster if they get their top corporations to grow faster. Samsung, Hyundai, Daewoo were supported by the government to expand internationally. And they were expanding so fast that they were borrowing more money than they were making, but they were growing fast. However, we had the Asian financial crisis, or the IMF financial crisis in 1997, 1998. I was here, I was in the middle of it. I was working for the Federation of Korean Industries, which was managing all corporations in Korea and how they can grow and succeed. And I saw a lot of companies. The first things they had to do was to cut costs. So what they did, they just got a list of who were the minorities, who were the people in the company that weren't vital for the success going forward, supposedly, and they let them go. They fired most women, anybody that was married, things like that. So that's what I'm talking about with a glass ceiling. Why am I saying these scary things? Because I want you guys to be scared, not very much. You should be super happy and super proud of your environment, but just be aware of your environment and start planning to protect yourself now. Use me, I work for you. So let's get into this talk.
Professor, could I?
Yep.
We would like to present our survey before we get into the talk.
Awesome. Thank you much. Thank you very much for talking about that. Who was that? Was that Andre? Who was just talking? Okay, so
Andre.
Jungho Moon and Pia, they were first to request it. Are you in their group?
One group.
You're in one group. Okay, so you guys are, you have the screen sharing capability. Feel free to take over anytime.
You can share it, Pia, or?
I think Jungho has the
Okay.
rights.
And Odbeck, you also have, sorry, Andre, you have co-sharing ability as well. While we're getting the screen up, I just wanted to also point out that the idea of career development, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with many huge organizations. And one thing that the most valuable, most successful companies in the world have in common is an internal HR educational program for staff. So Lucas, maybe you're not in this group, or Shokabos, maybe you're not in this group presenting right now. So Linda, you're not in this group right now, but I want to hear you making sure you understand what they're talking about and talk about details that can help you. Does that make sense? So Linda, Shokabos, Zachary, don't just sit passively while your life goes by. That's it. Go ahead, Pia and Jungho Moon.
Can you see our screen?
Yes, I'm waiting for you to start presenting, start talking. I can see how does artificial intelligence change recruitment and selection process. Would you like me to read it for you?
Could you make it full screen for me, please, Jungho?
Sorry?
Could you make it full screen for me? There is the button for that.
The top right corner, there's a small X right next to the calendar. If you close that color box, and then on top, yeah, right there, no, go to the, yeah, click that X, yes. Go to the right, yes. And now that triangle that's pointing down, if you hit that in the top right, yeah, click that. And then go slightly, yeah, right there, click share screen, yes. Great.
All right. Give me next slide, please. Thank you.
Jung Moon, we're still waiting to go to slide number 2.
Jong-ho, could you please? Yeah, thank you. So let me welcome everybody to our presentation this week about the survey for our project. As usual, we will go through the agenda first. So we prepared 4 points for today. We prepared possible questions for both sides of the recruiting process. So firstly, I will present the survey questions for human resource managers. Then you will hear about survey questions for applicants. Why are we asking those questions? Basically, what are we trying to find out from those by doing this survey? And the last point is connecting with people. How will we reach the human resource managers and the applicants for our survey? Next slide, please. Thank you. So possible survey questions for human resource managers. So we prepared a few questions, just what came to our mind. It's not, I think we would change those questions if before we conduct the survey. So as you can see, some of the questions we would ask, for example, have you ever used artificial intelligence in your recruiting or selection processes before? Then depending on their answer, we would ask more if they could imagine it using in the future, if they never used it up to now. And if yes, then what technology they used and how did it affect their work? We would also ask things like if managers think recruiting and selection will drastically change in the upcoming years, if they are afraid that their job could be replaced by an AI, what do they think are the advantages or disadvantages? And also, if an applicant asks why were they rejected by the AI, if they would be able to give them like a proper explanation of the process. What are some ways to use AI in the recruiting and selection process? Would you turn down an applicant if he refuses to work with the artificial intelligence? And do you think applicants prefer human recruiters over AI? Those are some of the questions for human resource managers we thought would be valuable.
Right. We also thought it would be interesting to basically ask some of the same questions, but also different questions to the other side of the recruitment process, the applicants. And there we would ask questions like, do you have experience with AI recruitment? And then if yes, how did it work? What technologies did you use? And what was your experience basically? And we also would like to know if they prefer the usage of AI. And if they never worked with AI, it would be interesting to ask if they could imagine being recruited within artificial intelligence. Then this question, we also had it for the human resource management, advantages and disadvantages. We thought it would be also interesting to see it from the applicant side. And another question would be, would you say you trust artificial intelligence? And do you think they are able to judge more fair than humans? For this question, even though it can't really be seen at the bottom screen right now, we actually had a reference. Even though we basically did the questions ourselves, we were kind of inspired by that one reference, but maybe we see it in the last slide. Okay, then we have other questions. Would you prefer a human interview partner over a machine? And also, if you knew that a company uses AI in the recruitment and selection process, would that make you hesitant to apply for that company? And if yes, why? And then we would also like to know if they would prepare differently for an interview conducted with AI. With this question, we basically had in mind if they are aware of keywords and stuff like, yeah, those kind of things that are kind of kind of important. And the last questions would be, do you think you could accept a rejection from an AI recruiter? If yes, why? If not, why not? If no, why not? Okay.
So the purpose of doing this survey is we're trying to find out how much human resource management are aware of changes that are happening in HRM, and we wanted to find out if recruiters are prepared and ready to use artificial intelligence in recruitment and selection. Also, we wanted to find out what applicants think about artificial intelligence in recruitment and selection, and if they would prefer a human recruiter over AI, and also if the acceptance of artificial is connected to the approval or rejection of the applicants. In order to do our survey, we were thinking about how to contact with recruiters and also with applicants. For the recruiters, we were thinking about LinkedIn because it's a possible sources to find out and ask active recruiters if they would be willing to help us with our research, and also maybe old connections from the earlier jobs. Also, we're considering about mailing questions to several HR departments of various companies. And in order to contact with applicants, we might ask friends and people we know, and also we will utilize LinkedIn in order to contact with people. This one is a reference which Pia mentioned during her presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please ask. Professor,
I can't hear you.
Thanks. As always, once you guys are finished talking about your ideas, what are you supposed to do?
Like Django started, do you have any question? Did you understand what we're trying to present, and did you get the general idea?
Very good for in Europe or in North America, but in East Asia, in Korea, how do broad, open-ended questions usually go? Yeah.
They're not very fruitful, so I'm trying to pick out someone who looks kind of interested.
I would have one question.
Celinda has her hand up.
Okay, that was a question.
So it's not a question. I just wanted to say that your presentation was very good because you prepare possible question for both sides, and about, if I have understand, it's about the human resource management and also for applicants. And it was interesting because you prepare question depending on the answer, and your group tried to know if the company has already used the AI in recruitment. They want to know the experience, if they trust more AI than human. And you try to connecting with recruiter on LinkedIn for your research. So thank you for this presentation.
Thank you. Perfectly summed it up.
I had one question because you had like one survey question where you ask if you prefer like an interview from an AI or from a human person. Do you know any case where already an interview, like a very job interview, is done by an AI? Because I can't imagine it really that you talk to a machine and the machine is capable of evaluating like your experience you present by yourself. Because like, yeah, you sure you have the data on your resume, but I think one of the biggest parts getting a job is like to stand out in the interview and tell the human resource manager or whoever is talking to you why you are better than the other guys, do you experience anything. And I can't really imagine how our AI could possibly evaluate that. Do you know any example, or is it just yeah?
Yes. Well, I haven't personally experienced it, but during reading the articles, it was kind of shocking how much it's already used. It's not really how we imagine it, so you don't sit and talk to a robot basically, but a lot of companies already use video interviews. So they basically send you a questionnaire and you have to film yourself. And then what I read about, the artificial intelligence is basically able to analyze the video. And what I found quite shocking is that it often doesn't even really look at what you're saying, but also like analyzes your facial expressions and basically your tone. So how you react emotionally. And yeah, I found that quite shocking because it basically analyzes you as a person and not the content you're giving. So yeah, it's quite common already.
Okay, well,
I need to help with that. Can anybody else guess how companies are managing applicants or managing people interested by artificial intelligence yet? I'll give you a hint. Has anybody tried to book a hotel in the last 5 years? Has anybody called into call centers in the last 5 years? Anybody know what a bot is?
Yeah.
Thank you. You have acclimatized to Korea using one-word answers. Please share a few more words. What does it mean?
Well,
Like when I try to book a flight, normally I like wouldn't connect directly to how do I say this, like the support, the staff from the airline, but through a chatbot first, and then if I have like more serious problem, they will connect me to the staff. So I just talk to the AI in the beginning. So I guess that's one of the example.
What do you mean? Do you, as the last person asking the question, are you talking to some sort of robot? How does that work? Are you talking to R2-D2 from Star Wars or something? Can you explain a little more? Because this week we're talking about the career development, how HR, you guys, any of you guys that want to work in HR, you need to not just share your idea, not just share information. That is the lowest level of education. You need to help people think and understand newer and better ways. So can you explain a little bit more about that? When you were talking to the airline, how did you know it was a robot?
Because I contacted them several times, and several times I received like the same format of information. But I think AI is really it's getting better nowadays. So sometimes I couldn't realize I was talking to a robot. So like I have several problems, and when I contact them, like it always say hello, how are you, and then it's come with the same answer. So I guess I was talking to a robot.
Can anybody else help her with that? Anybody else know what we're talking about? Can you explain the bots for AI surveying or education?
I can only I mean, I only know chatbots, basically the same as they were already explained. So I think they're working on several patterns, but because they're artificial intelligence, they're probably also able to go beyond that. But I think for now, only in a small case. That's why they still connect you to a human if you don't get the answers you want.
Right, the whole idea of calling into anywhere, or even when you are talking to a human and then they're going to do an interview or survey with you, they switch over to the AI system. And if you are on the phone almost ever and you hear, okay, please enter your ID number now, that's generally switched to AI. And then they say, if you want to talk to somebody in English, press 1. You want to talk to somebody in Chinese, press 2. You want to talk to somebody in French, press 3. That is not a human. That is the computers. That's the robots. And it's not just for the old fashioned that was developed 10 or 20 years ago, press 1 for English, press 2 for some other language. That's how training is done now. That's it's very big. You guys need to understand you are competing hardcore with robots, and bots being short form for robots, shortening the word robot to bot because they're everywhere. There's so much. Learn to deal with that. At the end of today's talk, I will talk about how you can learn more with the online, in some ways, artificial intelligence, like our class. It's being recorded now, and pretty soon it will be on the internet for anybody to learn. How can you learn with that and get certifications with that and the MOOCs related to that? But let's go back to this presentation. So Linda and Shokabos, Tobias, Zephyr, all of you guys, is this presentation helping you? Why? Is this presentation designed well? How is it designed? Are there plans for surveying? Good. Who are they planning to survey? How are they going to find people? You started saying something about that, and I was very happy to hear that. But I want to make sure every participant here gets involved. It's not just top management unilaterally saying, study this. That's not how I work.
I think the presentation was very helpful to understand what they're trying to do. But I think the questions that they want to ask are also very helpful for us, because it's like very interesting to get to know how people use AI in the recruiting process. That's actually very helpful for us when we're looking for a job. But what I would be interested in is to hear about how their contacting is going on, and maybe how many people they want to try and ask, because I'm not really sure how we should do that, because I'm not sure if we can find as many people as we would need to have like a statistical background. And that's what I would like to ask, if you have like more details on that, or if you want to maybe give updates on that or something like that.
I also have the same question, like the same concern. Like you were talking about interview or survey employer and staff and the applicants by connecting them on LinkedIn. Like you should go to LinkedIn and see who's looking for a job and start survey them. I'm sure that 100% you wouldn't get an answer from them. I would suggest you to find a specific company like Samsung or LG or any company in Korea, and survey them about their hiring process. Do they use AI in their during that process, and how does that affect the result? So I would suggest choosing a company and survey them instead of going to LinkedIn and start talking to people.
Yeah, basically we thought we could use the LinkedIn to get to the recruiters. We didn't contact people yet because we weren't sure if you liked the questions or if we had to change some things. But what we were planning to do was basically connect with people on LinkedIn, like recruiters. If you type in recruiter, you find hundreds of people from Amazon to Adidas. So we thought we'd try our luck with that. And with the applicants, to be fair, it's probably hard to connect with them on LinkedIn. So we were thinking about just asking people that we know, maybe right into groups that we're in. So yeah. And how many people are we trying to connect to? We're also not very sure about this, because when the last time we did a survey, or for me, for example, we had like 3 months, and even in those 3 months, it was really hard to find people. So I'm not sure how much people we can reach in 2 weeks, but I think 20 or 30 people would be helpful. Or maybe more, I don't know what the standards are.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments? I think this is great. I would like to hear the whole class talking all the time. If not, I'm going to start taking over a little bit. These questions that you have, you guys can see your PPT that you have. Great. Everybody in the class can see everything related to that, including the one reference. But let's take a look at this. How are they designed? If you have yes, no. Have you ever done anything? The answer usually is yes or no. Andre, did you design these questions? Yes.
No, I said this is not the final version. Of course, we would put
Okay,
more options.
that's absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm not being clear. I love you guys, but I don't care what you have done so far. What I care about is that everybody is in the same frame of mind of understanding what to think about, what's important to think about, how to think about it. And I want to start with over here, when you have questions, yes, no questions. For example, have you ever used AI? Do you think recruiting or blah, blah, blah? Answers are yes, no, next question. You can use that, but it's much better if you get open-ended questions where you ask people, can you tell me about your feeling about AI? Or can you tell me how much you agree with this? Scale of 1 to 5. 1 to 5 is the mathematical, that's the survey. Some of the students were focused on the survey significance. I don't really care about that. I don't really care about what you publish. I do care that you do publish, period, because it will make you more famous. The more famous you are, the easier it's going to be to have a good career for you. But what I care about more is maybe the second question, who are you going to survey? Most students might just survey their classmates around them, but I want you guys to start with the low-level people, the people that can be experimented on, and learn from mistakes with your classmates, and then go to other students, which statistically, a lot of people will say students don't matter in the real world because they're too young, they don't have enough real world responsibilities and stuff like that. Some other people are saying that. Again, I don't care about that. What I do care about is how you can start learning and developing yourself. So maybe you can contact students to start with the test, how you sound and what your questions sound like. And then after you have experience, after you're comfortable with it, then start contacting the target employers. Next, we already talked about how you can find the survey participants. You definitely talked about LinkedIn. Some people say, I don't think LinkedIn would do it. Well, why not? We are all living online. We're all working online. If you want to contact anybody, all it really takes now is half a second to click a button on a mouse, and you can have anybody in the world interacting with you. It's not like the old days where they have to get into a car, schedule half a day or a full day to drive somewhere and meet somebody. It only takes seconds. So it's pretty easy to interact with people if you remember what? This idea of you guys are at one level and other people or other things are at your goal level. Everybody's human, whether it's Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Bill Gates, they're all still human and they all have interests similar to you. And people like talking about their interests. And sometimes people like talking about themselves. So you need to find some way to be of mutual benefit. That idea of what is important with the other person, that's a huge part of HR, human resource planning. You've got management telling you in HR, you have to do this, managing the staff. And then you have the staff in the company telling you they want some other things, maybe the opposite things. It doesn't really matter what you want. You need to figure out what is a way to do things for mutual benefit with somebody else. So when somebody says you can't use a LinkedIn to survey somebody, I laugh because I do it all the time. And people do it all the time to me, sometimes too much. Let's talk a little bit more about that. What about who you're going to survey? What about your alumni? Especially we are in East Asia, China, Japan, and Korea. Your connections to older people in your group are like family, older brothers, older sisters, or parents, mom and dad. They have to take care of you. So you can go into LinkedIn, find somebody in a company, comma, put down your university name, and then find the people that are your alumni and start talking to them. You do not have to say you're a student just for the alumni. You don't have to say you're a student at all. You need to figure out what the other person likes and start sharing benefit along that area, that idea. So find activities, find some clubs, and start surveying those people. Get into those, get into the alumni clubs. Anybody that's working with them, maybe even suppliers of them. I have a form inside our main driver. There's all the class materials and things are here. But the idea of when you're going to survey people, start with people that you can make mistakes with easily to learn from. Learn how you can say things that are mutually beneficial. What do the surveying participants get benefit from? Some people like to be in a newspaper. Some people like to have their photos taken. Some people like to be researched and surveyed because they're getting famous. If you're doing a story about that, then maybe that person might like to be interviewed to be in a story or to be in a paper that you are going to publish. Those types of things. Also, make sure you don't ask yes/no questions, but you ask questions that make the other person talk. Not just talk, but make the other person talk about what they like to talk about. If people are talking about what they like, look at me. Bad example, I talk way too much. I don't want to talk. Didn't I say Solinda and Tobias and Zephyr, you guys are supposed to be talking more than me?
I have a question about that. We
Great.
have yes and no answers, but the smaller questions beneath that were always basically encouraging them to talk more.
Good, good.
Should we change it that there's no yes, no answer, or can we do it this way?
What benefit do you get from a yes, no? Especially knowing that if you ask somebody in a lot of East Asian countries, they're going to agree with you and they're going to avoid saying no because it's somehow programmed in their mind that a no is a slap in the face and they don't want to give you a slap in the face. Do you want to have this contract? Do you like this contract? Yes. It means I understand there is this contract. It doesn't mean I like it and I'm going to sign it. Right? So if you ask some people yes, no, they're going to give you an answer, but does a two-word no, a two-letter no, or a three-letter yes, does that teach you something? If it's an open-ended question, it teaches you much more. And you want that other person to be talking as much as possible. The more they talk, the more you learn. The more they talk, the happier they are. The happier they are, they think it's because they like you. But all you did is just get them to talk. You're supposed to guide what they're talking about or how they're talking about it, just like HR is supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
If you could get an executive in some company to start talking with you, that person is probably at the top of your life goals for success. So why don't you stay focused on them? Ditch the class, forget about me. That would probably help you more. Stay in touch and I'll guide you on how to develop things further. But again, don't get lost in the farm of sheep that are just doing things for a class grade. Do things for the bigger picture, that career development, your career development. The questions you have, whatever these questions are, the more questions you have, in some ways it's great, but it's ultimately for developing your life goals. How about Tobias? This first question here. We have the option of yes, no questions versus questions that are saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you aware of these types of questions, Tobias, and the idea of the Likert scale?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can you explain what the Likert scale generally is or does? Why should your classmates care about it?
What's the scale? I don't really know the scale.
Can you talk about how students should either use questions that have a yes, no answer, or questions that have something like this, which is called the Likert scale, or open-ended questions? Can you explain what is a Likert scale?
Yes, I mean, you can read a lot more out of this scale because you can see like how the person really or the person has to really think about the question to answer it with the scale. So if you have like a scale, especially when it's a scale from like not 1 to 5 or but from 1 to 6 or something like that, then you have no middle. Then you can't just answer something and click through or just go through the questions like, yeah, okay, I don't mind, just click something, but people are engaged to think about the question, and that gives you a lot better answers, like, yeah, because people like really care about the interview.
Right. And then again, at the bottom, the whole idea of open-ended, get them to talk. But at the same time, you also, as one of your classmates was saying, it's best if you have more than 30, because any less than 30 people participating, it might not be statistically significant. So start with your students. Maybe you can get 30 students or classmates to do your survey. Otherwise, if it's like a case study, if you're just focusing on a certain person, then you can find 1 or 2 people and just go with lots of questions in depth. Great. And then, so Linda, what is this talking about? Why is it important to think about who do you plan to survey? Can you explain that, Solinda?
Who do you plan to survey?
Yes. Why is it important to think about who you plan to survey? Why should you care?
It depends about the subject, but you can have different answer from different people. For example, students, applicants, or manager, they will give a different answer. It's not the same.
Why should you care? For our class project. Can anybody help her? This is a great example. My job is to work for you. You have paid me to teach you this topic about career development. And I thought I already did. I thought I taught you this, but you can see now that it's not clear yet. So what am I doing? I'm getting you guys to show me how clear my lesson was. So can anybody else explain? Why is it important to, or who should you plan to survey? Who should you be thinking of?
The way you said it like this, I think we should survey those who we want to work for or who we want to use to become experts, basically.
Yes. Try to focus on the organization, the people that are going to help you get your career goals and your dreams. The closer you can get to these people, the better. The idea of in class, your class work, it's only a game to get you a little bit closer to your dream job. Most people think the classwork is just to get a degree, and then the degree will get them a job. Well, that's only good for the cavemen dozens and dozens or decades and decades ago. Nowadays, increasingly, you have to get connected to the organization that you want to work with somehow, and then your connections will get you in. Or more importantly, you have to show you have that specific ability. It's not just a degree. So yes, find those executives that you want to work with and just use this survey as an excuse to start networking with them. Right. The other idea, recruiters, hard to connect and why? Mutual benefit. Should I say this 5 times, 10 more times? Everything you do, especially in HR management, you have to be thinking of mutual benefit. What you like is not really important, or at least to the other person you're around. Unfortunately, a lot of people care about their things, so you need to be more caring. You need to find out what they care about and start interacting with them based on that. What is a recruiter's job? A recruiter's job is to introduce good people to companies, period. If the company likes you, they get paid a lot. It costs you nothing. So recruiters should want to interact with you. They should want your resume. They should want to find out that you are good, you're a specialist in something, and they can help you get that job. Has anybody worked with a headhunter or recruiter executive search firm before? Anybody know what an executive search firm is? Okay, what about Tobias? Do you know what a executive search firm or a headhunter or a job search firm is?
I mean, I think we talked about it in class that some big companies hire search firms to look for special persons who fit to their open jobs and management positions. But so those are like firms who are specialized in finding people who fit a certain description, or a certain job description, or a certain skill set or something like that.
Right, but they're around you everywhere. They're a regular person just like you, but they're an agent. Their job is just to connect two people. In some ways, lawyers, in some ways, real estate agents, and as we're talking about now, the job agents. If they know you are interested in a job, they can use you and introduce you to a company. And if they do introduce you, the company pays them. Sometimes the company pays 30% of your first year's salary. Usually it's a little bit less, but sometimes it can be that much. So it, again, costs you nothing. The recruiters are motivated to get resumes and job interests from as many people as possible. So it should be easy. Again, it's mutual benefit. I highly suggest you develop your resume and have your resume with hundreds of agents. Have your resume in the files of hundreds or thousands of executive search firms, because those people can help you. Well, Andre, you're going to be looking for a job now. Tobias, you're looking for a job now. So Linda, you're looking for a job now. But that's just one person, and you're busy, right? You're busy talking to some old man Watts in a class. So you can't easily look for a job, from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock today. But if you have like a bot working for you, a robot working for you, looking for jobs, great. If you know how to do that programming, awesome, you will be employed. But then the regular person should realize that a robot is this agent. Get these other robots working for you. Get these agents looking for jobs for you, and continue to upgrade your resume with them. When I was your age, getting a list of job agents cost about $3,700. When I was like at the university age trying to get a good job, I had to go buy a list, $3,700, just to get a list of these job agents that I could send my resume to. Nowadays, it's online. You can Google it and get hundreds or thousands of them all the time, like monster.com and LinkedIn. They do that. So make sure your LinkedIn is out there. Make sure your LinkedIn has your resume. Make sure you're saying you're looking for a job or what you're interested in. And share that with many others. Be aware of that mutual benefit and the technology around you. Thank you for that presentation. Let's get back to what we're talking about here. The idea of career development, it's not just in the survey. You should have this in your mind all the time. It's ongoing forever. And in companies, it should be formalized. It's an effort by an organization that focuses on developing and enriching the staff, the human resources, the management, everybody. If you're with a company that doesn't try to develop you, it's not a great company. Because somebody's always going to learn more than you. Everybody's always learning. So all companies that are good know they have to keep learning. So learn how you can keep learning. What's the necessity of career development? It's to meet the immediate and future needs of the company, but it's also to better inform the organization and the individual about career paths and what are future developments. And it's to use the existing human resource programs to the fullest. Again, if you're working in a job that you feel is interesting, then it's good. You're happy there. If you're in a job where you're only doing the same thing every day, day after day, all the time, same work, same work, same work, you get tired, you get sick of it. You're probably going to leave that job. So what could you do? Have that job keep teaching you something, keep growing and developing something with you. So do the career planning, this whole idea of week 2. And what I talk about with the career planning, you should have this. Can I give you an extra bonus mark for anybody in class that shows me this, that's written out in each stage? What do you want in 10 years, or ideally it should be 20 years? What do you want in 20 years? Then in half of that time, you need half of those things. What do you need in 10 years? Then in half of that time, I need something in 5 years. And then in half of that time, in 2.5 years, I need this. In 1 year, I need this. In 6 months, I need this. 3 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 week. Today, I need to do this to get to my goals. Write that down. Make that list. Realize that it's fluid and it's going to always change. Otherwise, you're a robot yourself. So look at the most successful business people or most successful people in the world. They not only plan a lot of their day to schedule their future days or that day, but they hire other people to help them schedule their day. So at least, as a minimum, take 5 minutes of your daily life to write down your dreams and write down what you're going to do to get there. And if you don't know what you want, start with thehumanmetrics.com. Probably everybody's heard of the book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Read it. It's really good. And he has another book that's a little less popular. It's called First Things First. It talks about how to just plan that for moving forward. So that's what I want you guys to be thinking of. Then the idea of the company's responsibilities. Everybody should be checking and ensuring that career development takes place. If somebody is not developing, what does that mean? So Linda, if you are the CEO of a company, let's say you are the CEO of Amazon and you have some staff named Tobias that is not developing in his career, why should you care as the CEO, Solinda?
Because it could impact my company.
Okay, how? Good guess, but it's such an open question. How? How, if Tobias is not developing, if he's just working hard, let's say Tobias is a great worker. He's been doing the same job for the last 20 years, but it's the same job and he's maybe very good at it, but it's the same job. Why should you care, Solinda?
Because every day in the world, we have to follow how I say that, the development,
Yeah, the company must develop.
yeah.
So if he's doing the same thing, the competing company is probably changing and getting better processes. So you are losing to some other companies around you. That's number one. Number two, those other companies, people are learning new things and offering new jobs. I used to work with Samsung and Hyundai and even with the United Nations, and the Applied Materials was the highest tech company I've ever worked for. They had a huge, not just a university, they invested $1 billion to develop people in China because that was the fastest growing area and is the biggest market to get people. And they wanted the best people from China to work with them. They made a university, but they made it online. So any staff could always learn anything through there for free. Why? Because as the company is the best in the world, how did they get to be the best in the world? Because they had the best people. The best people learned and knew the best. But it's not just learn the finished, it's they continue to learn. And so you should always be helping your staff learn and develop. And then communicate that. Communicate the career options. A lot of companies will shuffle you from one department to another department to another department to help you learn how the company works. And so you can create different ideas to help. It promotes career conditions, creating conditions that facilitate development of an individual. There's lots we should be focused on learning. Employees' responsibilities. You need to develop your career path. You need to go through and make this. Please, please do it. Do it for class. The sooner you do it in class, the sooner I'll give you bonus points. Only you are aware of your desires for your related career. It requires a conscious effort on part of you to do it. The manager's responsibility, it's just to help you. It's to be a catalyst. It's to help you grow, be a sounding board, to guide your growth. It's to show the employee how to go about this process, how to continue helping the company. And then how do you implement it? Of course, you need to assess who you are. As we talked about earlier, that idea of humanmetrics.com will assess who you are, what are your abilities right now, and then what career might match that. And then there's the vision statement for you or the vision statement for the company. Do you match? Are you mutually beneficial? And then you also have the organization's assessment of the individual's abilities and potential. Make sure that you're aware of those details. So it's conducted jointly by HR management and the individual's immediate manager, and sometimes they're not caring about your personal welfare. They're just looking for the company. If you're not developing, they might let you go. That means they might fire you. So make sure you're developing and share that with the people around you, like your manager. You guys may be aware of a big company like Google or Tesla. Well, GE or Corning is a big famous company. So Corning's role is to provide job information and implement effective placement processes, and then support HR systems, offering education and training. And it's not just for Corning. I've worked for many big global 500 or multinational companies around the world. Every big company has that. They have this educational program to make sure everybody is growing. If you're not, you will be axed. Most companies, how do they manage you? They usually survey you each week or each month or each year. Did you fulfill the goals that you started with? Or did you do more? If you did more, you're good. If you did less than the goals the manager gave you, you're probably going to be fired, or at least you're in trouble. So make sure you're developing. Your job, the employee's role, is to assess yourself, to gather that data, to set those goals, to work with other people, and see that you're growing. Check the manager's, understand those details. The manager's role to appraise you and to tell you each month if you're doing better than the goal or worse than the goal. If they're not really doing their job. Implementing this development, the communication of career options and opportunities within the organization, show there are other paths. Show that there's self-management options. The career counseling is supposed to set realistic goals for you each month or each year. The manager is supposed to take whatever your goals are and stretch them, make them bigger, make them harder than you actually plan, to push you to develop. But no matter what your goals are, if you don't meet them at the end of the month, if you don't meet them at the end of the year, you're not doing your job well, and your manager should be looking to replace you with somebody that can. So be aware of that. It recognized the limits of the career counseling, respect confidentiality, establish relationships, listen very well. You should talk more to make sure your ideas are heard, and then consider alternatives. I put that in a different green because you guys must consider these alternatives. Seek and share information together. Do it more in class. Career-related myths. What are some myths? There's always room for one more person at the top. Well, in some cases, yes, but maybe not in a company. The keys to success is being the right place at the right time. Well, yeah, that is in some ways true, but you can't just rely 100% on luck. The idea of good subordinates make good superiors, well, not really. You need to learn with people around you. I know of people that have a bad boss, and most people leave companies not because the company is bad, it's just because the boss is bad. So be aware of that. Career development and planning are functions of human resource personnel. That's what you're studying. You're studying HR. This is what we're supposed to be talking about. More myths. All good things come to those who work long, hard hours. So many students do this, especially in many years ago. Their mom said, work hard, study hard, and you'll get a good job. Well, why? Many people say you need $1 million before you can retire. Well, why? When was the last time you saw a big pile of $1 million? $1 million, in my opinion, is not what you need to retire. It's not what you need for a very happy life. You need to have no financial problems. And if some people can live on $1,000 a month, then that's all you need. You need some way to give you $1,000 a month. And if you can do that by getting these online programs, as we talked about earlier in class, this is one. The idea of have a rental property where you can get the rental property and live in one part of the house and have other people living in the other part of the house. Maybe they will help pay the rent, which means they buy the house for you. And then you get another one and another one. So this type of thing is very valuable. And there's several different examples like that we can talk about later if you want. We're starting to run out of time. Be aware that you need to learn lots. The company wants to see you're learning lots. Just working hard, being quiet, especially in Korea, diligently helping your boss, and you'll be taken care of. That's a myth that is being replaced as time goes by. As I started the class showing you, whenever there's a global meltdown, when there's a financial crisis, the company is going to be firing people to cut costs. Employment costs are the easiest usually to cut. And so whoever has the lowest weekly career management levels, you're going to be let go first. Career-related myths related to employees. Always do your best regardless of the task. It's wise to keep home life and work separated. Is it? I find I do what I like to do all the time, and the pay just is a bonus. Do something like that, but the grass is always greener. There's lots of myths. Think about these things, how they impact you. So we are almost finished. I wanted to skip through a few things and make sure you're aware of the idea of the career plateaus. We talked at the beginning of class about a glass ceiling. Some people didn't understand it. A plateau is the point in a person's career where more promotions is hard to get, or the chances are very low. So it takes place when an employee reaches a position which he or she is not likely to be promoted further, or it takes place when the company finds somebody else better to manage you. So manage those things well. Be aware of the categories. Anybody that's learning, the individuals have high potential for advancement, and they're currently performing below standard. So they're still learning. A star is an individual presently doing outstanding work, and they have high potential for advancement. These things are good. Again, they're related to learning lots. And the alternative is solid citizen is to somebody that's performance is satisfactory, which means you could be replaced, or the deadwood, a bad employee, an individual whose present performance has fallen below the goals, below the plans to unsatisfactory level. They will replace you with somebody else. So what do I want you to think about? Take care of yourself, either with self-employment or passive income or financially self-stable financial management. Please talk to me about that a lot. Stable income on your own outside of an employer, whether it's an investment in income, investment in real estate rental properties with monthly rental income that can replace employment income, or just somehow take care of yourself and the growth. Classifying careers. There's the current performance, high performance, low performance, likelihood of future promotion. Do you have a high chance of promotion? Those are the good ones. If you don't think you have a great chance of promotion, those are the jobs that you need to start changing a lot, or look for something else where you can grow. Prevent your plateaus. Prevent those people from stopping growth, from being ineffective. The idea of integrate career-related information systems. That's one of the biggest parts of HR management. Hopefully you're aware of those things. We can talk more about this later this week, but before we go, I just wanted to point out some of the last things again is your life preparedness. Please plan your life. Please plan this and try to talk about or try to think about how a company and a career matches your plans. So start by understanding who you are. Go through the humanmetrics.com. Hopefully for next class, we'll have other people presenting your surveys, but also try to show what is your type, what is your human metrics type, what is your 16 personalities type, and show this graph. So if you're in a group, get one person to make this sheet, get another person to start identifying this, and then get another person managing to focus on your survey. And try to bring it all together. Share this information together. It shouldn't be very hard for any of you, and it's very valuable for all of you. And if you don't really know how, learn about how you can learn anything online. Massive open online courses for your career. For whoever is that ideal manager that you want to survey, what does that person want to do to develop? And start doing the job to help them do that job. Help other people do their job to help you grow. Next class, I hope to hear more people talk about your 10-year career plans. Like we said with this. Any questions today? Class is basically finished. I hope all of you understand. I want to hear about your surveying, but I also want to hear about this type of chart filled out by at least one person in your group. And the idea of maybe what is a MOOC, what is something you could learn to get developed even more. And of course, you're who you are. Hopefully one person can go through this and talk about this. So this is what I'd like to hear a lot in the next several weeks. Week 6, week 7, week 8 is a huge time where you will have to implement it. This week and next week, week 6 and week 7 are just planning so that you do things to develop wisely when you have a week break. Is that clear? Kiam, Ozbek, Pia, Shokabos, Solinda, Tobias, Zephyr, everybody, is that clear?
Yes, Professor. I understand you completely.
Any questions I can help you with before you kick me out of the way? I think I need to kick somebody's butt because I hired somebody at the beginning of the class and I think we ran out of time. What was that thing that we were supposed to talk about?
No, I have not any question.
No other questions? Okay. Where is it? Maybe it's right here. This. We were supposed to also talk about this, how you could actually make extra money And life's a game. We're supposed to talk about this. Tobias, was this you? Or was it Osbeck? Who did I ask? HR Review Committee. Your evaluations, you didn't stop me from talking and focus on the important things to help you guys.